Hey everyone, Brendan Sander here. How are you? Thanks so much for joining me and welcome to a special review for Guns N' Roses The Village Sessions. This is a 2 CD set from a leaked Chinese Democracy era set of demos. There was about 10 albums worth of demos that got leaked in 2019 from a record label exec. This has been edited down into a 2 CD collection of it, and I'm going to talk about it, break it all down, and do a full review of this in just a bit. But if you are new to my channel and haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like. All those things do help support my channel. I greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by turning on notifications, you'll never miss an episode and stay up to date on really cool things like this, where I'm talking about Guns N' Roses, The Village Sessions, a 2 CD selection of best of outtakes, demos, and things from the Chinese Democracy Sessions. So let's back up just a bit here. The follow-up to Use Your Illusion, which of course would ultimately become Chinese Democracy as we know it from 2008. But the sessions for this go back to 1994. While nothing from that original time frame was eventually used, it did start at that time. Taken 17 years to get Chinese Democracy, absolutely crazy. So obviously you can imagine the amount of material recorded during that time frame. So then to hear that 10 albums worth of material got leaked in 2019, you can understand why that is the case. And that A&R rep that this comes from is Tom Zutaut. And he was a Geffen A&R executive in 2001 who was also the guy that discovered Guns N' Roses, but he was brought in and asked to help finish the album with the band. They thought perhaps that he would be the guy that would be able to get Chinese Democracy done. And they had these deadlines set for it. So 1998 came and went and it didn't happen. And 1999 came and went and it didn't happen. And yet there was supposedly plenty of material recorded and done and ready, so that by the time that Tom was brought in 2001, there was he was given all of this and musical information to go through, to sit down and try to figure out with Axl Rose what would become the album. Now, when it got released, there were snippets, demos, alternate versions of tracks that would later turn up on Chinese Democracy, as well as finished and fully unreleased songs. So all this stuff leaks to the internet because I don't really know the exact story, but storage locker from Tom, there was a hard drive that had all this in it. Someone gets a hold of it. It gets leaked to the internet. And 8 hours apparently of that stuff, and then various groups or people took it upon themselves to edit that content down, make the best selections of stuff, and ultimately that's what this is here. There's 2 or 3 variations of this floating around out there. There's some volume 1, volume 2 type things, but this one here generally is regarded as the best one that's out there, and it is out on the Wrathchild label. No, this is not an official release. This definitely is a bootleg of sorts, or as they refer to it, a promotional only release that's floating around out there on the internet. But all this stuff is out there, including all 8 hours that you could stream if you want to hear everything. I have no desire to go through all of that. So when I came across this really piqued my interest, and that's what we're here to talk about. So the title of this, The Village Sessions, comes from where it was recorded, which was Village Studios. So that's how it gets its name. And then also note the album art on this is what the original art was going to be, but there was some issue as to why they couldn't or didn't want to use it based on, I think, what was going on at the time in the world, maybe. Ultimately, they go with this in the end of the day. But that's what the Chinese Democracy album cover apparently was supposed to be, at least as the story goes. So let's talk about this, the Village Sessions. I'm putting a year on it as 2019 because that's when it all leaked. But the story of these tracks go back to 2000 to 2001 in terms of when they're recorded. So really, these tracks are about 25 years old that make this disc. 37 tracks total on here. It's covering a range of styles from the hard rock styles that we know from the classic era of the band all the way up to the more experimental styles of Chinese Democracy, and basically even some unexplored territory of synth style sounds in between all that. If you have been a fan and or followed the history and legacy that is the story of Guns N' Roses under the banner of Axl Rose, then you know all the different styles, including his love of Nine Inch Nails, industrial music, drum loops, sound samples, his version of a rap song that was on Use Your Illusion 2, and all the different things that he wanted to explore as Guns N' Roses. And a lot of that turns up here on Chinese Democracy, but we get even more exploration of that sort of stuff here. The 37 tracks on this break down as the 12 of the tracks are what would become Chinese Democracy, but they're in alternate versions early on. Some of them very different than the ones that would turn up on here. Some of them have vocals, some of them are instrumental versions. Two songs that don't appear on this collection here is the song Scrapped and This I Love. So that's minus those two are the 12. 3 recently released songs are also part of this on disc 1. So you get the song Silkworms, which is the B-side to the Hard School, but we know it as Absurd. It was originally called Silkworms. We also get the song Hard School. So those two songs are also part of the Village Sessions. And then we get Perhaps. So those have been floating around out there since 2019 in very similar versions to what you ultimately hear, although Hard School developed into a much harder rock song, more like the classic era of the band than what is on this here, the Village Sessions. 20 of the songs on the Village Sessions are unreleased in any format. And I don't mean like an alternate edition. I mean 20 songs that have not been released. They're not on Chinese Democracy. They're not on the recent EPs that have come out. The song Oh My God that they released on the End of Days, that's not on here. So even The General, which is a B-side, that's not one of those 20 songs that's on here. So there is a lot to love on this. And beyond those 20 songs, which I'm going to get into in a little bit more in just a second, there's also 2 re-recorded songs from the classic era of the band by the new lineup. We get an acoustic version of Knocking on Heaven's Door, and we get a new full-on electric band version of Welcome to the Jungle that would later appear in the closing credits of Black Hawk Down, the movie. I don't know why they went with a re-recorded version, but I know the director wanted the song Welcome to the Jungle, and Axl decided to give them the re-recorded version as opposed to the Appetite for Destruction version of it. So those 20 unreleased songs, 5 of them have vocals. They are fully fleshed out songs. The other 15 are instrumental. They're fully fleshed out, fully recorded with all the layering and sound effects and voiceover, things like from Madagascar and other things where you hear talking that's in it. Civil War, has that beginning of it. What we've got here is failure to communicate, right? That sort of stuff that Guns N' Roses has done. We even get that sort of stuff. They're just missing vocals. But 5 of the songs that have vocals, Atlas Shrugged, Quick Song, State of Grace, Nothing, and Eye on You are all really, really good. But now at the time in 2019, when this was released, the songs Silkworms, Hard School, and Perhaps were also unreleased. So at that time, there were 8 fully finished, fully with vocal, unreleased Guns N' Roses songs. Must have been absolutely killer to have gotten all that stuff. I actually didn't hear about it at the time, and it was only something that I recently discovered that this stuff was even floating around out there. And I would say some of the stuff that I had heard was very, very poor quality. And so I really didn't explore it much further. I am glad to say that everything that is on here sounds absolutely outstanding and is professionally recording. And we're not talking about poor quality demos, and all of the sound levels on here have been mixed evenly, so it's not going up and down and all that different stuff. It sounds like a professionally recorded and mixed album, what you're getting here on these two CDs. So let's talk about those 5 vocal tracks of the unreleased songs, because those, of course, really stand out to me. And if you're watching this, you are probably a diehard Guns N' Roses fan and want to know more about that as well. So disc 1, track 16, Atlas Shrugged. It's a mid-paced rock song along the lines of their most recent release single, Perhaps. I would really like to hear this one, Atlas Shrugged, redone with Slash and Duff on it, turning it into a much more hard rock version of a song than what's on here. But I do really like it. It's one of my favorite tracks from the 2 CD set. Also on disc 1, track 17, Quick Song. This is one of the more hard rocking songs on this one here, in more of the traditional GNR style, having the same sort of twists and turns that we got on songs from like Appetite, where it's playing along one way and then all of a sudden it just kicks in and then it like steps back a bit and you never quite know which twist and turn it's going to make, but very, very interesting across the board. Then we move to disc 2, track 1, State of Grace. This one is sort of a slow, slinky, mid-pace rocker, similar in vein to the B-side of Perhaps the General. A little bit of a quirky style song, but it certainly picks up towards the end, and Axl gives it an absolute over-the-top performance vocally. Also, disc 2, track 2, Nothing. This is a sort of dreamy, kitschy style song with keyboards having a very kind of what I would call an ironic 90s sound to it, a little outside of the wheelhouse for GNR, maybe even a little outside of the wheelhouse for the Chinese Democracy sound, though I could imagine the song being redone where those keyboards are not so kitschy and 90s era sounding, meaning a little tongue-in-cheek, and doing it more traditional, and the song would be absolutely good. Then we get the last one to talk about here. So disc 2, track 3, Eye on You. And this one here is a dark, brooding rock song. This is the second best song off of the 2 discs, in my opinion. Easily as good as anything on the Chinese Democracy album. Would have been great. And again, another one that would be absolutely great to get Slash and Duff playing on, turning it into more of the present day era sound of the band, which is a little bit more throwback to the Use Your Illusion era than what Chinese Democracy was at the time. All right, and let's go ahead and look at this thing. As I already mentioned with the album art on here, this is what the album cover was supposed to be, so you can see the differences. But it is nice, the style and the way that they do this, that has that sort of tie into Chinese Democracy. So you know what you're getting. I'm going to flip both of these over just so you can see the back side of them. And again, the way that it looks like the Chinese Democracy era art. And then on here, with the track listing, you actually get whether this was take 1, take 2, with vocal, without vocal, because so many versions of these songs were released across those 8 hours of recorded material. They're actually letting you know which version was selected for this Best Selections disc. We open this up and it doesn't get a booklet or anything. It is just a single card that is in there. It is listing out the different players and people. And one of the people that it lists is Ron Thal on guitars on here. But if the material was from 2000 to 2001, as it states, and as the Village Sessions say that they're from, and that was the only time that Tom Zutaut was incorporated and would have had this, Ron Thal comes later. So I'm not sure why the name is in here, or they just maybe listing everybody that had a hand in the eventual Chinese Democracy, or it's somebody being lazy. I don't know, but I did notice that and it threw me off for a bit, but I think it's just a mistake. So these are silver press CDs. I'm going to flip this around just so you can see the art a bit better, and I will pop one out and show you. Let's flip this over. But I mean, it's very, very well done. And I love bootlegs or promo discs, as they like to refer to these, when they're done this well. But as I said, the recordings sound great. The editing is great. The mixing is great. It all sounds even. If you were looking for, more from Chinese Democracy, this would be the thing to go find and pick up. And I can't believe that this stuff has been floating on the internet since 2019. And I don't know when this particular compilation collection came about, but I hear there's other ones. When I started Googling this, I found a bunch of others and stuff. When that stuff started turning up, but I can't believe that even for me, who I certainly claim to be a major, major Guns N' Roses fan, didn't know that we finally had these bootleg versions of these to go after. And I do want to preference that, yes, while I understand this is bootleg, not official, and certainly, the band purchased back that hard drive with all that information because they didn't want the stuff that's out there, that they don't want this stuff out, or at least Axl doesn't. If Axl would release it, I will gladly rebuy whatever they put out, even if it is an exact duplicate of this, because I'd rather have an official version. That said, without being able to get it, and it just sitting in a vault doing nothing, I want to get it. I'm a fan of the band. I want more from these guys. They simply don't put out enough material. So if I've got to buy it this way, that is how I'm going to do it. Let's talk about sort of the bottom line of what this is. And it is a release for diehard fans who love Chinese Democracy, and I think you absolutely have to love this even more than just as a casual fan might like this album. But if you're like me, I really love this album. I think it is fantastic. No, it's not Appetite for Destruction. It's not even the Use Your Illusion era albums, but for what it is a really, really good album. This stuff here certainly shines a light on that, and it's a behind the curtain sort of look at it. So if you could imagine getting a box set for this, a deluxe edition box set where this would get a remastering, then they would put in 2 CDs worth of demos and outtakes, just like they did for the Appetite for Destruction box set. This, I believe, is what that content would be eventually. And that's kind of how I'm looking at it. I would buy that kind of a box set. I would buy a deluxe edition of Chinese Democracy. So for me, I've always had so many questions about the other content. What did they do for 17 years? What songs didn't make the album? When they released the song, Oh My God, and this is a promo copy of it, on the End of Days soundtrack, and I think this is 1999. And I wondered, whoa, that is really different. But then even that didn't turn up on Chinese Democracy, and nothing to that degree is on here. So there is a big sound change between Oh My God and what came on here. And this is 2008, 9 years on. Again, what happened? Well, this is the collection that explains it. And so that's how I'm looking at this. And I think if you want to know more about the band, you want some behind the scenes, you want those nuggets, you want 5 more unreleased songs that have not been released by the band any way, shape, or form, plus 15 more songs that are in instrumental form, no vocals on them. I know we're here for Axl Rose, but they sound great. Then this is for you. And that whole second disc, that is what that is. So you actually get to pop on the second disc, start to finish, and get all these unreleased songs, and then it caps off at the end with an acoustic version of Knocking on Heaven's Door and the re-recording of Appetite, whereas the first disc is ultimately an alternate edition of this because it puts the songs in the same sequence as Chinese Democracy and then tacks these songs on at the end of it. But all in all, I gotta say that I'm absolutely elated and ecstatic from this. I can't believe how great it is. And I wish this thing were mass marketed for all the Guns N' Roses fans out there to find and buy. But if you can find one of these copies, I highly, highly recommend it, as I think it is some great material. And like I said, it's a little bit of a behind the curtain sort of look at the band, which is always fun for an enigmatic band like Guns N' Roses. And there you go. That is my review and unboxing for the Village Sessions. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Be on the lookout for one of these things. But if nothing else, I hope that this video here has been enjoyable as far as a Guns N' Roses topic. All right, everyone. Take care. Have a good one. And I'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.